national level. Environmental planning constitutes itself with the decision-making process where they are required for managing relationship that exist within the between natural systems and human systems. Environmental planning the endeavors to that manage these processes effectively transported by the equality manager of benefit all constitute the within the such systems for the apparent for the future. In the present days, the environmental planning practices are the result of continuous uh, scope or decision making process. Some of them main elements of the present day environmental planning are the social and economical development, urban development, or regional development, natural resource management, and integrated land use infrastructure system, governance framework. The environmental planning assessment areas such as land use, social economy, transportation, economic and housing characteristics, air pollution, soil pollution, the wetland habitat of the endangered species, flood zones, some coastal zones, coastal erosions. The environmental planning assessment, it is able to analyze the environmental issues that we will facilitate the crucial decision making. Many environmental planning actions currently resolve around the reduction of some materials reuse, not adaptation in the order of lessen future climate change impact. These most frequently seen as a result of difficult of predicting the long-term effect to the climate change. What is the emerging environmental planning? This environmental planning gained to important of the 1960s due to the several global changes. A major reasons of global change are rapid industrialization leading to the pollution, the fast urbanization causing to the overcrowding and waste problems, ecological crisis such as air and water pollution, deforestation, loss of wild life, uh, resource depletion. What is the global awareness of these particular issues? Raise the environmental movement, 1960s and 70s international conference on environmental laws, recognition of need for the sustainable development, a global awareness of environmental issues in 1960s and 17 spotted the pollution crisis and ecological advice. In 1972, Stockholm Summit and creation of the Union, this summit is creation of UNEP, establishing the crucial international environmental laws. It formalized the formalized the necessity for the sustainable development. In 1960s and 70s, raised the so many environmental movements. A key catalyst of 1962, a publication Rachel Carson, Silent Springs, it is highlighted the danger the pesticide pollution to the society. Yeah, 1960s and 70s saw the birth modern environmentalism with the organization Federation Earth Farming. 1970, first Earth Day in the US brought us 20 million people together to protest the environmental degradation. In 1973, in India, Chipko movement in local resistance against the deforestation. The focus of these movement demands to shift the immediate preserving the natural resource and to the future generations. International Conference on Laws is started from Stockholm Conference 1972. United Nations Conference on the Human Environment was the first major summit to address the global environmental degradation. UNNP formulation to the conference lead to the creation of the United Nations Environmental Program to coordinate the global effect. The legislation action is the major environmental agreement followed by the including the CITES 1973, which is formed from 1973 for endangered protection of endangered species. Maripol 1973. It is maritime the pollution. It recognizes sustainable development, recognition of sustainable development, bridging the development of environment. And 1970 to mark the crucial shift into the recognition of the environmental protection is intrinsically linked to the human development. Respect such as the limit to the growth, highlighted to the ecological exponential economical growth. What is the evolution strategy? Evolution, the need for the new model to the development that balance the ecosystem growth and environmental strategy, sustainability gained traction to leading to the commission 1987 Brundtland commission report uh, defining the sustainable development need for the model of the development balance economic growth with environmental sustainability gain traction. What is the focus on environmental planning? Environmental planning to aim to balance the development with the environmental protection. The major focusing areas are sustainable uses to natural resources, effectively used the water and land, forest materials, prevention of resources depletion, human welfare and quality life. How to what evolution the environmental evolution focusing on human welfare and quality life. The clear air, safeguarding to housing and sanitation, green space for the healthy ecosystem, pollution control and prevention. Reducing the industrialization and urbanization is promoting the clear technologies. Long-term ecological balance is protecting the biodiversity, maintaining the ecosystem services. I share something. The, major focusing on environmental sustainable resources and human welfare, pollution control and prevention, reducing the industrialization and urban pollution, promoting the clear technologies, a long-term ecological balance, uh, protecting the biodiversity, maintain the ecosystem services. Core principle of environmental planning is sustainable development and conservation of natural resources. And pollution prevention, public participation, uh, uh, interdisciplinary approach. What is the meaning of environmental planning? Environmental planning is a systematic and organized process aimed to manage the natural resources, control the environmental impact, mm, and ensure the development activities are carried out the way of maintain the ecological balance, support to the well-being. The core idea of environmental planning focusing on development with the nature instead of stopping the development guide and how use to resource of efficiently and responsibility. Key elements of environmental planning: systematic process involves data collection, uh, analyze the planning, use the scientific method to the interdisciplinary knowledge, including the monitoring, evaluation, resource management. What is the resource management of environmental planning? Sustainable use of land, sustainable use of water, forest, and minerals, prevention of the over exploitation and resource depletion. The impact reduction. What is the impact reduction? Identification of potential environmental impacts, implementation of mitigation measurements, pollution control, and waste degradation. The balancing development with the ecology. What is the balancing development with the ecology? Integrate the environmental concern to the development, integrate the environmental concern into the development plans to promote the sustainable infrastructure, industries, or protect the ecosystem and biodiversity. What is the main components of environmental? Planning. Environmental management involves the set of the coordinate the activities that help to protect the environment while supporting the development. It is typically built around the four main components. Environmental planning. The first one, environmental planning, status of evaluation. Second one, environmental impact assessment. Third one, legislation and administration. The firstly, we look at this environmental planning. Environmental planning focusing on a long-term use to management of natural resources, like integrated. What is the key features of environmental planning? Then integrating the environmental concern into the development plans, a sustainable land and resource use, pollution prevention strategies, conservation of environment, ecosystem and biodiversity. What is the main outcome of the environmental planning? The balanced development with the minimal environmental damage. Status of environmental evolution. The status of environmental evolution involves in the assessing the current condition that of environment. The key activities of environmental status of evolution: monitoring the air, water, the status of evolution, air, water, soil quality, to monitoring the quality of water, soil, and air, measuring the pollution levels, the studying the biodiversity and ecosystem health, collecting the environmental data. It is going to the how to pollution damage to the environment. What is the key outcomes from status of evolution? Understanding the environmental trends and problems, providing the baseline data for the planning of assessment. The third one is environmental impact assessment. Environmental EIA is the process of predict and evaluating the impact of the proposed development project. The, what is the key function of environmental impact assessment? Identify the environmental and social impact. The recommending the mitigation measures and supporting the discussion making method. Ensuring the sustainable project planning. What is major outcome of reducing outcome of environmental impact assessment is the reducing the environmental risk. A better to project design to implementation, better to project design and implementation. So it is a major role. EIA plays a major impact to the new upcoming and projects. The legislation and administration. What is the legislation and administration useful to the environmental plan? These components involves laws, policies, and institutions that regulate the environmental protection. But the key function of environmental legislation and administration is the enacting with environmental laws and regulations, setting the pollution standards, uh, uh, generating the permits and clearance of pollutions, enforcing the complaints through the agency. The laws and status is this is the legal instrument that establishing legal basis for the protection of protection. For example, Environmental Protection Act 1986. This major important is environmental protection, the clear air, uh, clear water, pure water. The policies and frameworks of the legislation. These include the national and local policies, such as the national forest policy or wastewater management rules, which is provide the strategy, a direction for the conservation. Institution and agencies also use including these process. These are the bodies responsible for the implementing the monitoring the enforcement regulation. For example, some institutions and agencies in Ministry of Environment, Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board, Central Pollution Control Board, environmental courts, tribunals. These are all including the institutions or agencies to protect the environment. Environmental laws and regulations creating the legal framework, such as the some example, Water Act, Air Act, Air Prevention Pollution Act, Environmental Protection Act, like this one. Setting the legislation administrations setting up pollution standards, laying down to the specific permissible limits for the pollutant, such as emissions, standards for the industries, ambient air quality standards and water quality standards. So getting permitted and clearance of some requirement projects obtain the content establish of some environmental impact assessment. Some agencies using the enforcing the complaints in inspect the facilities means industries areas, monitoring the complaints and enforce the penalties and violation for the violations. What is the main outcome for the legislation and administration? Legal framework for environmental protection, accountability for the industries and projects. So this is a major environmental legislation administration these days. See, okay. Reduction of pollution and environmental minimize the release of contaminants into the environment, clean up the existing of pollution and stopping the practices. It is called uh, depletion of natural resources. Okay. Concept and principles of the environmental planning. The environmental planning is guided by a set of principles that help to ensure the balanced development, efficient use of resources, and protection of ecosystem. These principles is support long-term environmental and social well-being. So the principle focusing on the efficient of the equability used to natural resources, the land, water, energy, according to the need of sustainability. Avoid the overuse of waste resources, balancing the economical and benefit the environmental protection. For example, a planning and urban land use to include the housing, green space, and transport efficiently. What is the conservation of conservation principle of the environmental planning? Conservation aim to protect the maintain the natural resources for the present and future generation. What is the key ideas of conservation? Conservation main idea, key ideas is preserve the forest, water bodies, and biodiversity, prevent the resource depletion, promoting the sustainable harvesting practices. Uh, for example, some establishing protected areas, include these protected areas to conserve the wildlife. Establishing in the protected areas are national parks, some some projects to conserve the wildlife. What is the pollution minimum? It is useful to the environmental planning. Principle focusing on the in reducing the pollution that source. The key ideas of pollution minimizing: use the clean technology, treat the waste before discharge. The promoting the recycling and waste reduction. The public participation is a major public participation plays a major role to the environmental planning. It should be involves the local communities and stakeholders. The key ideas of public participation: encouraging the people input the decision making process, increasing the transparency and accountability, address the community concern to the needs. For example, public hearing before the approval of major development projects. What's the sustainability? Sustainability ensure that development meets to present needs without comparing the future generation. Sustainable Sustainability means ensure that development meets a present needs without compromising the future generations. So it is a sustainable. Sustainability means what is the key ideas of sustainability? Promoting the renewable energy, reducing the resource consumption, protect the ecosystem and biodiversity. For example, solar energy is useful to the urban house projects also. Mm. Environmental transport. The transport system are essential for the trade, mobility, and economic growth. But also they also create the significant environmental impact. if it is not plan sustainable. The importance of transport plays a vital role in development of facilitating and management of people and good support to the trade commerce and connecting the rural and urban areas, promoting the economic and social integration. The major environmental impact of transport, air pollution, the air pollution emission for the vehicles are released to the carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, particulate matters. It causes the smoke, respiratory diseases, and climate change. The noise pollution is coming from the traffic, railways, airports, generating the high noise levels and lead to the stress, sleep, disturbing the sleep, some creating the hearing problem. The land degradation, landscape damage, land degradation. The construction of roads, railways, airports destroy the vegetation, fragments habitat, causes the soil erosion, energy consumption, heavy rainfall depends on fossil fuels. Heavy depends on fossil fuels. Increase in greenhouse gases contributing the global warming. Water and soil pollution is oil leaks, fuel spills. Try to get the contaminate the water. Load of pollutants. Sustainable transport solution is the public transport system, electric and hybrid vehicle system also useful to the environmental impact. Soil erosion. The What is the environmental benefits of the lower emissions compared to the transport? The road transport lower emissions compared to the road transport reduce the traffic congestion. Airways, the air transport is the fast mode and for long distance travel feature. High speed, the high-speed reliability is sustainable for the passengers and high-values goods. The connect to the remote and international locations. Environmental concerns. The high fuel consumption. It is consume the high fuel, significant greenhouse gas emissions, noise pollution near the airports. The impacts of landscape damage for the transport infrastructure. Uh, Expansion of transport infrastructure such as roads, railways, airports, and pipelines often causes the disturbance to the natural landscape and landmarks. While these developments support to the economic growth and mobility, they can significantly alter to the physical and uh, visual character of the environment. How the control transport infrastructure damage the landscape, deforestation and land cleaning. Trees and vegetations are removed to the build roads and railways and airports. It leads to the loss of natural habitats and beauty. Habitat fragmentation. Infrastructure divide to an ecosystem into the smaller isolated patches, disrupt the wildlife movement and breeding patterns. Visual and aesthetic degradation. The large structures such as highways, bridges, airports, the channel of natural views. Historically, culturally important landscape may be affected. What is the soil? Soil erosion and land inhabited. The excavation and the construction distribute the soil layers. It in hilly areas, road cutting can cause the landslides. What is the impact of air and water? Major environmental loss of air pollution. It causes the water pollution. Vehicles powered by petrol, diesel, and other fossil fuels release the harmful gases and practices into the atmosphere. A major pollutants of carbon dioxide contribute to the global warming. Nitrogen oxide causes the smoke and respiratory problem. Sulfur dioxide leads to the acid rain and lung irritation. The particular matter, PM, fine particle harmful to the lungs and heart. What is the sources of air pollution? The cars, buses, and trucks, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, aircraft, shipping, ships, diesel-powered trains. These are all the pollutant the air, water, and land. What is the environmental impact of these the water and air pollutant? That it changes the climate. It forms the urban air smog formation. It causes the acid rains. It reduces the air quality. What is the main health impacts of air and water pollution? It causes the respiratory diseases, asthma, bronchitis. Majorly, air pollution causes the respiratory diseases like asthma, bronchitis, lungs irritation, heart problem, eye irritation, and throat irritation. The water pollution transport infrastructure can be affected the water body through the contaminated runoff accidental spills. A major cause is oils fuel leak from the vehicles, tires, um, brake dust, road salt and chemicals, accidental spills during the transport hazardous materials. How the pollution reach to the water? Rainwater is wash the pollutants from the roads into the drains. Drains carry the contaminated water into the rivers, lakes, and groundwater. Environmental impact. What is the environmental impact of the water pollution? Major environmental impact of water pollution: contamination of drinking water source, harm to the aquatic life, reduce the water quality. It causes to the eutrophication in the severe causes. What is the mitigation measures in these pollution? Promoting the electric and hybrid vehicle, strict vehicle emission standards, maintain the strict vehicle emission standards, improve the public transport system, uh, uh, proper road drainage and oil traps, safe transport to handling the hazardous materials. In case you handle the you transport the hazardous materials and chemicals, you firstly to protect with safe containers or something, and you transport the hazardous material. The transport planning measures. Transport planning measures. What is the transport planning aims to measures? Transport planning aims to meet mobility needs by minimizing the environmental damage and energy uses. Sustainable transport systems focusing on efficient, low pollution, and people-friendly mobility option. How balance between the transport modes? A balanced transport system uses to multiple modes: the road, rail, cycling, walking, and waterways based on the efficiency and environmental impact. The key factor of transport planning measures: reduce the dependence on private vehicles, promote the rail and public transport for the mass movement, to encourage non-motorized transport like walking and cycling, integrated encouraging the electrical vehicle, integrate the different transport modes. What is the benefit of using the transport planning methods? If yes, you use the electrical vehicle, it is move the lower fuel consumption, reduce the conjugation, decrease the air pollution. So, transport planning measures is important to the environmental planning. The planning and public transport used to plan and public transport. The efficient, well-planned public transport system are essential for the sustainable cities. Key strategies are public transport, expand the metros, bus and rail networks to the transport the public, introduce the bus rapid transit system, use the electrical low emissions vehicle, provide the affordable and reliable services. In this case, more benefits is transport planning measures in public transport measures. Reduce the private vehicles, lower emissions and noise, improve the accessibility for the citizens. What is the shared and corporate transport? Shared and corporate transport system help to reduce the traffic and pollution. For example, carpooling the among employees, company provide the shuttle buses, ride sharing services, school and institutional buses provide the school and institutional buses. These are all benefit for the favor of vehicle on road, low fuel consumption, reducing the parking demand, decreasing the air pollution. So these measures, these transport planning measures benefit to the environment, balance the transport modes using the efficient model like ride, cycling, walking, reduce the emissions and effects. The planned public transport reliable and affordable mass transit forever private vehicles and clear air. Shared corporate transport, carpooling and company use buses. It is useful to the fuel sharing and pollution, reduce the pollution. What is some more measures to the transporting planning? Along with balanced transport system and public transit, the several policies, technologies, and regulatory measures are needed to reduce the environmental impact of transport. Emission standards. Government set some emission standards to limit the pollutant release from the vehicles. It limits to CO2, NOx, for example, SO2 and particulate matter. Uh, Promoting of clear fuel and fuel technology introduce the strict standard limits over the time. What is the benefits of these methods? Reducing the air pollution, improving the public health, lower gases emissions. Some enforcement laws, environmental measures. Strict enforcement ensure that environmental regulation more actually followed. Regular vehicles inspection, penalize the excessive emissions released vehicles, control the illegal fuel use, regulation of industrial and transport emissions. The key benefits of these enforcement laws, the petrol complying with the standards, reducing the pollution levels, increasing the accessibility and accountability. What is the environmental monitoring? Environmental monitoring, continuous monitoring help to track the pollution levels and evaluate the policies. The key activities of environmental monitoring is the air quality monitoring in cities, tracking the vehicle emissions, data collection analysis used to the monitoring, public reporting environmental data, To find the early detection of pollution problems, evidence-based policy making, improve the urban planning. Biofuels and clean energy. What the research and development of biofuels and alternative energy sources help to reduce depending on fossil fuels. For example, ethanol, biodiesel, biogas, hydrogen fuel. What is the benefits of biofuel? It is the lower greenhouse emission or reduce the air pollution, renewable and sustainable energy sources. The environmental and housing. What is the what is the environmental and housing policies? Poor urban areas. The most common problem of sanitation, which is directly affecting the health and safety and quality life. Or small and inadequate case effects cause the rapid urbanization, rural to urban mitigation, and the shortage of affordable housing, poverty and unemployment also facing the so many problems. What is the impact of poor housing overcrowding and lack of privacy and for the water and electricity. Lack of sanitation. The lack of sanitation, poor housing areas often suffering from the adequate sanitation facilities, the common issues, absence of toilets, open drain and stagnant water, improper waste disposal, contaminated water resources. The major health impacts of lack of sanitation. Waterborne diseases like cholera, typhoid, diarrhea, skin infections, malnutrition, due to the poor hygiene. It is all due to the poor hygiene. The overall consequence of poor and public health consequences quality of life. What is the solutions of harmful solutions of this poor housing? Affordable to housing scheme uh, and improve the sanitation and waste management, access to the clean and drainage water, a plan to urban development, the community awareness, conduct the community awareness programs. Some decisions like health and environmental impact of poor housing. Key features of poor housing. The poor housing condition, especially overcrowded and unsanitary areas, create the serious health risk and environmental problems. These conditions affects both physical and mental well-being of residents. Some spread to the insect diseases, poor sanitation, and waste come accumulate vector-borne diseases like uh, dengue, malaria, plague. The major causes suffocation, poor ventilation, overcrowded, typhoid. What is the psychological stress? Living the poor housing conditions can cause the mental and economical strain cause happen. Overcrowding can lack of privacy, increasing the noise and air pollution, financial insufficiency, insecurity also, unsafe the living conditions, effective the anxiety, depression, increasing the productivity and well-being. What is the some areas often the suffering from the severe environmental pollution source of garbage dumping, untreated sewage, smoke for the cooking fuels, industrial traffic pollution nearby. Environmental the pure housing planning and strategy. Housing planning aims to provide the safe and uh, healthy and affordable living spaces while the respecting local environmental and cultural conditions. Effectively, strategies ensure that housing designs are suited to the climate traditions and needs to the community. What is the housing standards to suit our uh, local conditions? Housing should be designed according to the geographical, economical, and environmental conditions of the region. The key aspects of environmental and local conditions use the local available and building materials, affordable construction method, advocate ventilation and conditions. Lower construction and maintenance cost, better to increasing the local climate, improve the living comfort to the health. Integration of climate factors. Climate response housing reduce the energy used to and improve the comfort design condition. Orientation of building to the maximize the natural lighting and airflow. The use of shading devices and the reduce the and heating, a lower energy consumption, greater indoor comfort. These are all environmental planning strategies. What is the cost benefit analysis? The cost benefit analysis is an investment appreciation technique to use to evaluate projects by the comparing their total cost and total benefits. It considers not only the economical factor but also the social and environmental impact to the determination of the projects and worthwhile. The meaning of cost benefit analysis method that identifies the all cost benefits to the project, converted them into the mortality values where possible, compare the total benefits of with the all cost. It helps to the decide whether accept or modify the rejection of project. What is the types of benefits? Uh, some types of cost benefit analysis is economical cost and benefits is construction and operational expenses uh, is useful to maintain the low cost, reduce the low cost, increase the productivity, production, job creation, higher income to the economical growth. What is the environmental cost benefits? Environmental cost benefits. Environmental cost benefit method. Uh, and another one is the major role of environmental planning is played the process of managing land and resource development and activities that protect the environment while the supporting the human needs, economical growth, integrate the environmental concern into the urban and regional levels. Some of the main elements of present day environmental planning are social economic development, urban environmental development, regional environmental development, development of infrastructure, natural resource management and integrated land use. In this environmental planning assessment, it's encompassed areas such as the land use of social economical transportation, the economic and household characteristics of air pollution and noise pollution. These wetlands, habitats, endangered species, flooded zones, especially in, suspectably coastal zones, is to the uh, urban and environmental regions. This is the last slide I will share you. This one is the last. What is the features of poor housing? A poor housing condition are major environmental and social issues, especially rapid growth of urban environmental areas. The most common problems are overcrowding and lack of sanitation, which also directly affect to the health of safety and quality life. Overcrowding means Overcrowding is occurs to many people living the small educated areas, causes the rapid urbanization and rural urban mitigations, the shortage of affordable housing, poverty, and unemployment. The impact of poor housing is spread the infectious diseases, lack of privacy. This is also facing the major role. This is the uh, ninth unit of environmental planning and management. Mm, Tomorrow we will discuss. Next class we will discuss environmental impact assessment and population dynamics. Mm, Some brief information about the environmental planning. Environmental planning is process that managing the land resources and development of deactivating any way that protect the environmental while supporting the human needs to the economical growth. What is the emerging environmental planning? Emerging environmental planning gain to the importance of rapid urbanization leading to population, fast urbanization causing to overcrowding and waste problems. Some